Alright, hello everyone and welcome to today's video. And as you read in the title, we are browsing 3 creepy threads I found on 4chan, and specifically 4chan archives, if you're interested in knowing where it was.
But before we start, I'd really appreciate it if you could just go down there and press that little red subscribe button, and if you'd like, you can turn on the notifications bell as well. That'd really help me out. Thank you very much.
Hopefully this will be a series, but for now let's just get into the first one. A long time lurker here, first time posting. I don't know how to convince you guys that what I'm saying is the truth, but here it is. Around 6 months ago, my mom and I were driving back from Portsmouth on our way to a small town in Hampshire, where we lived called Petersfield. Anyhow, my mom points out the window of the car to a place called Hailing Island. Needless to say, this place looked eerie as fuck, and being into all that shit, I thought it would be cool to check it out. We dive onto the island over the Salt Bridge, the only way on and off. Here's the weird bit, there was fuck all there and abandoned amusement park, 3 Victorian houses on the shore, and 1 corner shop that stood alone before the properties aforementioned. I didn't enter, but my mom did. She said the shop itself seemed to look odd, like it was left unchanged from the 70s or something. Even the shop assistant looked odd. On top of this, the radio was playing songs like Buffalo Springfield, Stop Children, what's that sound like something out of Final Destination. We were creeped and we left. A few months later, we made the same journey back from Portsmouth, and I suggested we go and have another look, just for shits and gigs, and my mom said why not, and we returned. Hundreds of houses, a supermarket, a 5-star hotel. It was a sophisticated modern town. Anyone have any idea what could have happened there? I've heard stories of life glitches or time loops or whatever. Could this be that? Alright, that's the whole post that the OP posted. So, as we dive deeper into this thread, we can see one reply that says, Hailing Island has been built up for quite a while, and they show a picture of the island in the 70s. So, yeah, as it seems like it has been here for a long time. And we also have a few links to the island on Google Maps and Wikipedia. It's a pretty big island, not gonna lie. I did explore it a bit, but I couldn't find anything interesting. And the other interesting reply I could find was from the OP. What's weird, and this is where the plot really thickens, I didn't think I'd mention it at the start, because I didn't want to push it too far, but my mom worked for a company called ARM. I think that was the name anyways, which was based right before the bridge onto Hailing Island. Her boss lived on Hailing Island and she spoke to him about her experience. She was subsequently fired. I'm not saying this just because she's my mom, but she doesn't fuck around with jobs. I'm sure that's the reason why some people know what's going on here. They also said she resigned voluntarily when the others inquired as to why she was fired. The second time we went back, we also stopped at really obscure butchers. I stayed in the car because I literally was so scared I didn't want to set foot on the island. Lingering in the safety of my car, there was a big house. It looked like the house out of Hunting in Connecticut. And there was a guy fucking staring at me, like seriously fucking staring at me. Given this was the second time we went, when everything seemed normal, all these coincidences, I'm so sure at least some of the people there know something's up. And really, that's it. The other replies were just from people saying that, oh, this could be a life glitch, or a thing called thin spaces. Now, I don't really believe in these theories, and I can't say that I don't believe in them either. I'm not sure, but who knows, maybe this guy and his mom did cross into another dimension. But that's a whole another story. Onto the second thread. In June of 1972, a woman appeared in Cheddar Sinai Hospital in nothing but a white gown covered in blood. Now this in itself should not be too surprising, as people often have accidents nearby and come to the nearest hospital for medical attention. But there were two things that caused people who saw her to vomit and flee in terror. The first being that she wasn't exactly human. She resembled something close to a mannequin, but had the dexterity and fluidity of a normal human being. Her face was as flawless as a mannequin, devoid of eyebrows and smeared in makeup. That's the other reason people were throwing up or fleeing in terror. She had a kitten clenched in between her teeth, her jaws clamped so unnaturally tightly around it to the point where no teeth could be seen. The blood was still squirting out over her gown and onto the floor. She then pulled it out of her mouth, tossed it aside and collapsed. From the moment she stepped through the entrance to when she was taken to the hospital room and cleaned up before being prepped for sedation, she was completely calm, expressionless and motionless. The doctor had thought it was best to restrain her until the authorities could arrive, and she did not protest. They were unable to get any kind of response from her, and most staff members felt too uncomfortable to look directly at her for more than a few seconds. But the second the staff tried to sedate her, she fought back with extreme force. Two members of staff holding her down as her body rose up on the bed with the same blank expression. She turned her emotionless eyes towards the male doctor and did something unusual. She smiled. As she did, the female doctor screamed and let go out of shock. In the woman's mouth were not human teeth, but long, sharp spikes, too long for her mouth to close fully without causing any damage. The male doctor stared back at her for a moment before asking, "What in the hell are you?" She cracked her neck down to her shoulder to observe him, still smiling. There was a long pause. The security had been alerted and could be heard coming down the hallway. As he heard them, she darted forward, sinking her teeth into the front of his throat, ripping out his jugular and letting him fall to the floor, gasping for air as he choked on his own blood. She stood up and leaned over him, her face coming dangerously close to his as the light faded from his eyes. She leaned closer and whispered in his ear, "I am God." The doctor's eyes filled with fear as he watched her calmly walk away to greet the security men. His last ever sight would be watching her feast on them one by one. The female doctor who survived the incident named her the Expressionless. There was never a sighting of her again. Now obviously this is a creepypasta and it's definitely not real, or at least I hope. But it is still very creepy. The story describes a woman coming into the hospital looking like a mannequin and doing some crazy things. Now, even though it's my second time reading this while recording, I still got shivers down my spine. But unfortunately I could not find the original post. Unfortunately, I could only find one image from the post on Imgur, and that's the only image remaining of the post on the internet. But it is still scary, so let's get into the third one. Now unfortunately I could not find any more fortune threads, but I did find an Ask Reddit thread which was pretty interesting. Dear deep sea fishers of Reddit, what's the strangest thing you have seen or heard on the open ocean? I was fishing off the coast of Malaysia in the middle of the night. Suddenly the night sky brightened and I saw a bright glowing orb appear to the bow. The orb moved slowly across the sky, leaving a bright yellow trail, and seemed to have sparks coming off it for about 20 seconds before disappearing into the night. After getting back to the shore, I learned that it was a retired Japanese satellite re-entering the atmosphere. Now, if I saw that while I was sailing, I'd probably shat my pants, because, well, I probably wouldn't know that a retired Japanese satellite would be re-entering the atmosphere. Alright, let's read this reply. I do a lot of night fishing off of SC and FL. I get a lot of fish that are bitten in half by sharks. Some of them had to have been very, very large. When you reel in a large sportfish's head like some kind of sequel to the Old Man and the Sea, and realize the shark is close to half the size of your boat, miles and miles off the shore, essentially in the middle of nowhere, you get more than a little freaked out. 11 years ago, scientists tagged a 500-kilogram great white off the SW coast of Australia. From the data from the tracker, it was determined it swam off the edge of the Australian continental shelf and started to dive to a great depth. Then something ate it. Now, for scientists to track a great white shark which was 500 kilograms and then it suddenly got eaten by something, is quite scary, if I do say so myself. This was many years ago, back in the 70s. He was an experienced sailor and fisherman and took a small skiff with a put-put. What the frick is that? With a put-put outboard out on the Solent, a stretch of water on the south of England that separates it from the Isle of Wight. The motor died, and despite his rowing efforts, the currents carried him south out to the Atlantic. The water was calm, but fog both stopped him from seeing where he was going and also prevented the local lifeboat team from being able to find him. His boat finally drifted into a shipping lane and he got picked up, he said, about 40 miles southwest of his starting point. He was a tough old bird, never one to complain, but he said that was one of the worst and best experiences of his life. He said the sheer euphoria he felt when he saw the sirens was the most incredible thing he's ever felt in his life. At the same time, he said he knew if he went over the side to them, he would die, but it was so tempting. Now, this is quite... I've I've heard some pretty crazy stories about the ocean, but I've never heard about the sirens. Now, while editing, with a little bit of research, I found out what sirens are. They are basically like these things that look like mermaids, and well, I'd say they look pretty scarier than mermaids. So yeah, that's it. It sounds pretty scary to me, but that's it for today. Now, if you'd like this to be a series, you can just get this video to 5 likes, and if you do, that's it. That's all I want from you. I'll do one every weekend and we'll see how it goes. But for now, have a good Sunday and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.